I've done for a long time. And as you can see by the walls behind me, I have postponed decorating my house because I'm self-isolating at the minute due to potentially being in a high-risk group with asthma. I've got a back injury as well. And I don't like the fact that I can't go to the gym and, go to kung fu lessons and things like that, and NA meetings as well, because they've been especially helpful in this time of recovery. But otherwise, I'm in good health and good spirits, and I've been quite used to solitude over the past 15 years. I mean, I do join with groups and I do socialise, but essentially my work is very solitary because I'm an artist, I'm a painter, I'm a writer, and I spend a lot of time reading, philosophising, practicing meditation, qigong, sorcery, and chess, playing a lot of chess. So I'm used to being solitary, and it isn't a bad thing. People are afraid because they're unfamiliar with it, but solitude is a wonderful thing. And I've personally prospered in solitude. I've written 4 books and I've made over 100 paintings and other digital images. And I've read hundreds of books as well. And I've meditated for the past 20 years, practiced Qigong and martial arts. So I'm very happy being by myself. And my message basically during this challenging time, this extremely challenging time, which is unheard of in a generation and possibly the worst pandemic to hit the world since the Spanish flu of 1918, which killed 50 million people. It's important not to panic because panicking and worrying waste energy. And if you waste energy, that compromises your immune system. So you want to practice as much self-care, self-love and self-nourishing as possible. And the way to do that is to go into yourself and not to worry, despite what the media is telling us. It's important to pay attention to what the professionals are saying, of course, because they know better. And all these New Age people and conspiracy people that tend to only think about themselves, really. They're quite narcissistic and solipsistic and quite selfish in many ways. And sometimes I find it extremely irritating to listen to them babbling on about their strange theories and without any credible evidence to support them. But essentially, they're just as scared as anybody else, probably more scared. And that's their way of expressing it. So we shouldn't really get angry at them. Tough though it is not to get angry at them, they're not really thinking, and they're not putting their egos aside. It's important to put your ego aside and realise that this virus is bigger than you and I, and it's bigger than all of us. But at the same time, that's no reason to panic, because together, working together as one force, one humanity, we can overcome it, even if it lasts months and years, which it is predicted to do. We can. I mean, even though the statistics tell us that it's not an existential crisis and that it's not going to wipe out maybe tens of millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people are going to die for sure. Probably in each country. But I don't know the exact statistics. What I'm saying is we should put our energy instead into personal projects. Projects that make us feel good, that give us a sense of joy, well-being and accomplishment. Doing things on our own and getting to know ourselves, getting to know our inner selves. And maybe, this is the Spirit's way, or the universe's way, or God's way, or the way of the Tao, whatever you want to call it, it's the universe's way of telling us that something needs to change. We need to change. Our way of life needs to change. We need to stop being so selfish and materialistic. We need to think of others as well as ourselves. I mean, you might not be personally affected. You might not be in a high risk group. But what about all the old people out there? What about the people who are isolated? What about the people that have got no families? No one to take care of them? You can't just think about yourself. Because if you have it, even though you might develop antibodies to it, you could spread it onto other people. And just thinking of yourself during this time is not the message that is a positive one, that is going to leave a positive legacy. It's important. Yes, it's important to protect yourself. It's important to nourish yourself and give yourself self-care. But when I say, the type of selfishness I'm talking about is self-nourishing. It's not, oh, I'm all right, Jack, because, I'm in my 20s or I'm in my 30s or I'm not in a high-risk group or I don't have any underlying illnesses, Because if you get it, you could still pass it on to 100, 1,000 people. I mean, we have to think exponentially. It's like putting grains of rice on a chessboard. You put one grain of rice on the first square and you double it up each square. Now there's 64 squares on a chessboard. So if you put 1 on the first square, 2 on the second square, 4 on the third square, 8 on the fourth square, 16 on the fifth square, do you know how many grains of rice you would need to fill the 64th square? Well, I can tell you there is not enough grains of rice in the world. That's what exponentially means. It dramatically multiplies exponentially until, so 100 people get it, and then you double that, and you've got, if my maths is right, 10,000. That could happen in one day. It could go from 100 to 10,000, and then 10,000 doubles, and so on. And so it goes into the millions very quickly. And at the same time, harsh though it sounds, maybe there are some people who have to get the virus in order to develop antibodies. And I mean, all these anti-vaccine people really, I think, are being quite silly. I know that there are some people in high risk groups with, like, say, autoimmune disease or HIV or other diseases which, could be detrimentally affected by vaccines. But for the majority, if it's going to prevent you getting a major illness or disease or save your life, then for God's sake, get it, take it. I've had dozens of vaccines and I'm in relatively really good health. I mean, my energy is very high. But what I'm saying is, this is the time now to go into solitude for a while and find out about the other side of yourself, the mysterious, magical side, the magician within, the shaman within, the sorcerer within, the warrior within you. Find the spirit. And solitude has produced the greatest men and women in world history, the sages, the prophets, the seers, the Socrates, the Plato, the Aristotle, the Plotinus, the Marcus Aurelius, Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Mahavira, Krishna. All the great mystics were essentially solitaries. Now, of course, at some point you have to go back into the social domain and teach your people what you've learned in solitude, like the Zen in the Oxherder picture, when the Zen master goes back into the villages and starts teaching what he's learned up in the mountain. You see, so he comes down from the mountain into the valley to teach the people what he's learned from the spirit, from the Tao, from God. So it's important to redirect our energies away from materialist goals and selfish pursuits and mindless ambitions and superficial entertainments, and really use technology in a positive way to connect with people. Use your phones not to play silly games and go on silly apps like Tinder, which will be useless just now anyway, or Snapchat or any of these things. But well, Snapchat you can communicate with your friends through that, and WhatsApp and Facebook and all these things. So we can use technology in a really positive way, and instead of using it to isolate ourselves from one another as we do normally. So many changes are called for because of this coronavirus. So we can look at it as a blessing in disguise. Really, it's a challenge if we're going to be objective and neutral about it. It's a challenge. It's neither good nor bad. It's a catalyst for change. It's a catalyst for what I would call SPICES. Now, SPICES is an acronym: spiritual, physical, intellectual, creative, emotional, and social. And you could also add in that acronym ethical, practical, and the shadow. But basically, going through them, I've done a separate video about this, about the 9 domains of mastery, or the 6 spheres of mastery, self mastery. So I don't want to go into them on in any depths here, because that takes a whole other video. I might do another video on it, but this is what I've been practicing for the past 20 years: is spiritual development, physical development, intellectual development, creative development, emotional development, and social development. And all these can be practiced at home, can be practiced on your own, you see. So this is an opportunity, a tremendous opportunity, an opening to unity, to reconfigure ourselves and reconnect in novel ways, because the universe is an expression of novelty, is a manifestation of novelty. So we, as a species, have to evolve in a different way. The virus is the glitch in the matrix, which is awakening us all to new horizons, a new future, and we can prosper in what seems like negative or catastrophic times. This is no time to be sad, because sadness, like depression, weakens the immune system, as does anxiety. It's important to eat a healthy diet, take all the necessary supplements like echinacea, which strengthens the immune system, raw garlic, which is an excellent antiviral and antibacterial substance. So sprinkle that on your salads. Vitamin C, a good quality vitamin C tablet or capsule. Plenty of water. Go for walks away from people in nature, in the quiet, because it's not an airborne, as far as we know, it's not an airborne virus. So you can get it around people. Don't shake hands with people. Don't hug people just now. That's hard for me to do because I love hugging people. I love getting hugs, and but I'm in recovery from active addiction, and I can't go to the meetings, but I can do online meetings. I connected with 150 people I didn't know last night. Isn't that an amazing thing, you know? So we need to use uncommon sense to fight this challenge, to meet this challenge, to fight this virus, and to respect it. You know, a lot of people are laughing about it, you know, as if it doesn't exist, or denying it, and that's just the human ego. That's just self-importance, being in denial of, because they don't want to change. They want everything to continue as it is, and that's understandable, but it's not going to help us. And we have to think in terms of we and us, not just in terms of I and you. So my strategy is to isolate and to develop myself in these 9 domains, which I've been doing anyway for the last 20 or odd years or so. And so this is just another development in the plan, so to speak, in the blueprint. And there really is no reason to panic, because we will get through this and we will overcome this together. Thanks for listening.